In today's video, I'm going to show you how to build your own airship in preparation for Create Aeronautics. Now first, I do want to talk about why prepare for Create Aeronautics. Why would we want to build airships when we don't even have the mod yet? And honestly, it's just excitement. I personally am super excited for the mod, and I know a lot of people out there are as well. And I think that this is a really nice outlet to kind of use some of that creative energy and build an airship as if you had the mods. That way, as soon as the mod actually does come out, you can start building your airship and just throw your balloons on here and make it work. So I think it's definitely a valuable little thing to do, and I would definitely recommend it if you are as excited for aeronautics as I am. Now, before I get into the details of this really amazing ship I put together with Brick Farmer, first we need to figure out what blocks we're actually going to be using to make our airship work. The Create Aeronautics team has actually been nice enough to release a whole bunch of different ponder scenes, so we can already take a look at a bunch of the different blocks and features we're going to be using to build this ship. So the first thing we need to think about is our envelope, or essentially like the balloon on top of our ship. Now, we don't really have too much specific details about what this will actually need to compose of. However, we can see that there is a specific balloon block. Now, looking at the propeller ponder, we can actually see just a balloon, and it doesn't seem like there's anything too fancy going on. We do see a blaze burner that's just lit without a blaze below it. Now, in Create Aeronautics, we are going to have an adjustable burner, so I would definitely have a location on your airship where you can place a blaze burner going up into your balloon. We don't really know the specifics of how that's going to work yet, but I would just have a spot to be prepared. Now, one thing to keep in mind is it may be a little tough to kind of balance your envelope in your airship so you're not floating up infinitely, but also are able to get off the ground. Now, on our balloon, you might notice that we put some additional sails kind of coming off of it, and the purpose of those is for stabilization. Now, when you just have any sail kind of vertically or horizontally, it will provide stabilization. So with an airship, we really want to keep it upright as much as possible, so these should help us stay upright once we actually get this ship flying. So next, we're going to move to the back of the ship and talk about our propellers. Now, we do actually have a full-scale ponder for propellers, which is basically going to tell us that spitting some propellers will turn us forward. It does seem like there will be some unique options in the mod. We'll have both phantom sails, as well as it seems like a wood version of propellers. Plus, I was able to find some pictures of a small scale propeller, which I think would be really useful if you're building a boat a lot smaller than this one, or if you just wanted something to turn your ship and you wanted to like put one on the front to be able to turn left and right. But for purposes of preparing your ship, just put down some mechanical bearings and eventually you can swap those out for propeller bearings and actually be able to provide some thrust forward. And for our ship here, all we did was we put one on each side, so that way we can turn both on to go forwards, turn one forward, one back to go left or right, or turn both backwards to go backwards, and hopefully that should work out pretty good. And the last block I want to talk about is going to be the Stirling engine. Now, with this build, I ended up not going with the Stirling engine because I wanted this to be self-sufficient. So we did end up going with some self-sustaining steam engines back here. However, in the mod, there will be a Stirling engine, which will be super useful for either small builds or builds where you need a lot of power in a small space. These essentially give the same power as a level 1 steam engine, but you do need to provide it with fuel. So you kind of have to put some thought into what's going to be better for your case. Do you want an engine that you just need to fuel up? Or do you want to try to go with a steam engine that may be self-sufficient but would require a lot more space? So with all of the critical aeronautics blocks talked about, let's start talking about how we actually put together the ship. So the first thing we did was we built out our envelope. So we decided on about 50 blocks long because that would give us a pretty decent sized ship that we could stick a pretty good workshop in. And then after we had that done, we then went ahead and put in our fins. Then after we had our envelope and our fins, we then could go ahead and put in our deck. We decided to go with pretty much the same size as our balloon, maybe a bit smaller. Now, in real life, your deck will be a lot smaller, but with this scale, it definitely came out looking pretty nice. And honestly, I'm kind of happy with the size we ended up at. I think it looks relatively balanced. And once we had the balloon and the deck, all we had to do was just kind of shape out the hull of the ship, put in our propellers, and add a bunch of details to make the ship look really cool. And I had a lot of help for these details with the help of Brick Farmer. They make some really awesome Create Aeronautic prep videos, so definitely go check out their channel, linked down below. Now, what's going to be really nice about aeronautics is just the freedom you're going to have when building ships or whatever else you want. current state, we can't put contraptions on contraptions in the Create mod. However, with Aeronautics, we can, which means we can do cool stuff like this. So we have our little deck that we can then put down when we want to exit, or put up when it's time to fly. And just like little stuff like this is so cool. You could even go crazy and use these bearings for shaping of your hull or cool ramps and stuff. Plus, we were actually able to squeeze a full workshop down inside the hull. Now, it's not everything you need, but it's got the basics if you need to craft some quick Create stuff up. Also, all chests and different inventories will be accessible on your contraption, so you can pretty much do what you want. So now that we have our ship and we know what we need to make it work, I'm going to spend some time talking about what is actually powering this ship. So, like I mentioned earlier, we do have a small self-sustaining steam engine. We actually have two of them just to provide a little bit more thrust to our propellers. So we have the two steam engines back here. Now these have one shaft going this way, which comes all the way through here and into our little Create workshop. Then the other one comes back here. It goes to a clutch and a gear shift. Now this clutch and gear shift are controlled up at our little control panel here, where we can essentially control each prop. We can control how fast they're going, and we can turn them on and off. Plus, we can also reverse it with that gear shift. So you can see that's reversing that propeller, and this is reversing that propeller. Now, what this will allow us to do is very easily get good control of our ship. If we want to turn left, I could either turn this propeller off or reverse it if we want to turn really fast. Or I could, if we want to turn it slowly, just slow this one down. And then we'll start to turn left. Now I do have a lever here for altitude, which would control our adjustable burner to help lift us up or lift us down. Now I already showed this off, but we do have our little porting platforms if I can push them the right way. And then up at the very front, I do have some of these redstone contacts attached to rope pulleys. Now the purpose of these are for docking. So eventually this redstone contact would be swapped out with a magnet. And what that would allow us to do is drop this all the way down to our docking station and then magnetically attach and hold our airship in place, which would be super sweet. Now to control everything, our little magnets up in front are just controlled with a little handheld lever, so you can just bring them down or put it up by hand. You could easily automate that, but for this ship, we just went by hand. All of our different components are just hooked up via Create through to our steam engines. And then to actually control the ship itself, the first component is our adjustable chain gear shift. And this is hooked up to our right and left props. So as we make these more or less powerful, we'll get more and less speed going to our propellers. Now out through there, we're going to come up, and that's where we have our clutch to turn them on and off, and our gear shift to reverse directions. So with our clutch, gear shift, and adjustable chain gear shift, we can completely control our little propellers in the back. I really hope you guys enjoyed this weird little video of me just making some guesses about how aeronautics might work and just kind of messing around with building my first airship. I definitely recommend trying this out yourself and just kind of seeing what you can come up for in preparation for the eventual launch of Create Aeronautics. And if there are other videos you guys are interested in seeing me talk about and just working through how Create Aeronautics might be used to actually make it work, let me know down in the comments, and maybe we'll have to do a part 2 to this video. But that's going to have to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave a like and subscribe if you did, and I'll see you guys next time.